West Tigers podcast, episode number 415. It's just Garry and Eddie in the house tonight. Garry, what's going on?
Well, we are recording close to midnight, mate. I think everyone else is in better sleep.
It shows our commitment to the West Tigers, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess it means we can go for the up late version and swear a little bit and carry on a bit, mate.
See how we go. I didn't get the chance to come on Sunday because I was out celebrating, Garry. I did listen to the pod on Monday. It was a big relief. That wasn't my word. My word was finus. But, yeah, I had a great time out there Sunday, especially given I was out there with 4 Roosters fans.
Yeah, up in the corporate boxes I hear as well, Eddie. Like, get the invite to the nice plush new stadium, and I'm sitting behind the goalpost, and you're up in the corporate box.
Yeah, not quite the corporate box. Was the members, though. But it would have been good of my mates to tell me they've relaxed some of the members, because I don't like putting on polo shirts and stuff like that, but I did because I thought you had to in members, and it turns out you don't have to anymore.
I actually didn't think you'd own one. That and shoes, I didn't think you'd have any.
Looking for one. Garry, we won't go over the game because even though it was a good win, we did that on Sunday night. So obviously midweek pod, we will preview Sunday's game in New Zealand against the Warriors. We'll do Yiotis quiz and we'll do a little bit of buy, sell, hold. But firstly, mate, Shane Richardson was on Monday night on NRL 360. He was also on radio, not sure which station, on a Sunday.
ABC.
He's back on the bandwagon. It was good to see the beard back, for one, and Bullish Richo was back.
Yeah, it's quite funny in both those interviews. He just doesn't let anyone else speak. It's not really an interview. It's just it's a bit of a monologue, like Steve usually goes on the pod.
I think that's a tactic, or that's just his personality. I think it's a bit of both, because he got asked questions around Galvin, and he went on about 5 or 6 different tangents. But he could speak underwater, Richo, literally, I reckon.
Yeah, I've had meetings with him where it's just like that. One question gets asked and he speaks for ages. But I do believe that's a tactic. You can't be asked a difficult question if you don't give the interviewer time to actually ask a question. So I think it definitely is a tactic, and one that serves him pretty well in what has been a bit of a difficult time.
Did you take any big positives for what he said, or were there any big takeaways, surprises, Garry?
I don't really think there was any real big surprises. It was good to hear him speak, and he tried to give a little bit of context around the decision that I had the most problem with in the Taylan Silva release. I would have liked to have seen them ask why he was let go when he was. They did ask why he was let go, and it was all about prioritising Appy and a promise to Talon's family. But I think the question could have been asked, why did we release him halfway? Well, not halfway, at the point we did while the season was still being played out. I still think we should have hung on till the end of the year, and I would have liked to have seen Shane answer that.
I didn't think there was anything groundbreaking there, but it's good to see Richo stand up to those journos, because we need a strong personality and an experienced leader. And I don't want to see him every week, but I thought, given what's happened the last few months, it was good timing. I was sort of positive. Nothing groundbreaking, but just the fact, Garry, that he sort of reiterated that we need to stick to a plan. And that's the one thing that the West Tigers haven't done over the past 25 years. When there's been bumps in the road, they've done a 180.
Yeah, and the club came out with their strategic plan last year, and it's good to see us sticking to that. And it's hard to say we're totally sticking to the plan when we've just released 2 of our juniors, and that is a key component of that strategic plan that came out last year. But I guess, what do you do in a situation where you've got young guys that want to move on and you're looking at prioritising other areas?
He mentioned what the club has achieved under his reign. Obviously, the independent board, proper corporate governance structure. They've turning over now a profit he expects this year after a $5 million loss in the past 2 years. I suppose, Garry, they're all positives. Not something that the fans are going to be jumping up and down about, but something about running a strong, stable club.
Yeah, I think the telling comments, the one about us being losing $5 million over a 2-year period, and now getting to a point where we're profitable, I think that's the key part for me. That's the key takeaway, that this club was losing money hand over fist and relying on going cap in hand to the Holman Barnes group to ask for support to run the club. It looks like now we might be able to run a little bit more independent of the Holman Barnes group and actually just run the club as West Tigers and not rely on that funding.
You mentioned before he sort of danced around. He didn't dance around, but the De Silva scenario, he sort of explained it, but I found it like an underwhelming reason why he was let go. Is that fair or not?
Oh yeah, I'm completely underwhelmed on the reason we let him go. I think just that look, Tristan Hope had a really good game last weekend. I thought he played really well. But I don't think there's any doubt would be better served with Taylan De Silva playing off the bench for the rest of the season than Tristan Hope. And for me, I would like more clarity around why that decision was made, why we hurt our chances for the remainder of the year. For you, Eddie, as someone who is constantly looking at the wooden spoon race, not only did we weaken our chances, we strengthened one of the teams who we're in that race with. So I'm a little bit disappointed around that still.
His backing of Benji Marshall has been really strong since the day he got there, and I suppose he has to be. Any changes in your opinion on that? Seems genuine at the moment. I suppose he's going to go all in until he's not, if you know what I mean.
With the clauses in Jerome Luai's contract, Eddie, how do you make a change? Like, I think a key...
can't.
Well, and I think a key... It's not till April next year that Luai has to make a decision about that clause, whether he takes up the extra 3 years in that contract. And I think a key component of that for him is Benji Marshall as coach. And I can't see how you don't have Benji Marshall as coach until after that clause is taken up, at least.
Well, it's a good segue. You mentioned Luai. There's been a bit in the news this week, Gary, about both Bula and Luai's contract situation. Starting with Luai, he's got until April 30 next year to trigger a 3-year option to remain at the Tigers beyond 2026. So it's essentially a 2-year deal with a 3-year option in his favour. How do you think this plays out?
I can't see any reason why he wouldn't take it up. What if he was looking at a contract with another club right now? I don't think there's anyone that's going to offer him the money that he's on. So the only reason I could see him possibly leaving is he's not happy with the direction the club's going. If we've got Benji Marshall as coach and things are still progressing forward, then I can't see why he wouldn't take it up. If he leaves, then I think we've got bigger problems at the club than just Jerome Luai leaving.
He doesn't strike me as a guy who would walk away from a challenge, Jerome, but it's sort of history repeating if with these sort of clauses. Is there a potential, Gary, like let's say he takes up the option, does that automatically mean he's then on a 5-year deal, or could he potentially say, I'll extend for another year and have an option there?
No, I think the clause in the contract is that it's a 3-year extension to his 2-year deal. I can't see any reason why that would change. That would be a complete new renegotiation of the contract. And from what I've heard, and I think Richo mentioned it in his press conference, I think there'll be a conversation over the off-season. And I don't think the club wants that clause there any longer. And Luai has pretty much said he'll decide at the end of the season to have that taken out. I really don't. I'm not alarmed by it at all. I expect him to be here for the full 5 years. He seems that type of guy who's in it for the fight. And really, for me, if he can get this side into the semi-finals, and if he can get this side pushing for a premiership, then that's amazing for his legacy. He's a guy who's won 4 premierships. He's already got 4 premierships. If he can go to another club that was wooden spooners when he got to it, and drive them towards a premiership, it almost makes him an immortal of the game. I think you'd have to be in the conversation around that. So I think there should be a lot of reasons for him to stay here, because I think he's a guy who does care about his legacy in the game and how people will remember him after he's retired.
I'll frame it a different way. Like,
You didn't like my answer, Eddie.
No, I didn't mind it. I'm just going to, play devil's advocate a bit, because April 30 next year, that's essentially 1.25 way through a 5-year deal if he takes up the option. So would you, I wouldn't have a problem with if he came to the club and said, right, I'm going to just push that option back 12 months, because that sort of ties him in a little bit more with Benji, because I feel like Benji's got enough rope until the end of next year. But if we're sitting where we are this time next year, then I sort of feel like they're almost a package together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, do you see him as a package together, as in you'd want him to go as well as Benji if we're doing poorly, Eddie?
No, I don't want him to go. I just think they're tied together. I just think if we're struggling this time next year, then it's probably hasn't worked. So what's the point extending it for another 3? Whereas I just think potentially, Jerome, do you think he's been worth the 1.4 million per season so far?
I don't think his play on the field has necessarily been worth that much. I think what he's brought to our club is invaluable. I think the leadership he's shown at our club is exactly what we need. I think he's the exact type of player that we need. And I think the standards out on the field has made players around him play better. I think Adam Doueihi's season he's had, especially defensively this year, I think a lot of that comes down to him defending outside Jerome Luai and having that presence inside him. But I do have a question for you, Eddie. If we get to April 30 next year and we're not building as a club, do you see anyone else coming in for him anywhere near the money that he's on anyway?
Another club coming in for Luai?
Yeah.
Probably not, outside a new club.
So for me, I don't think there's a massive risk in him leaving, because if we're going poorly, then I don't think he's going to be commanding the money that he's on now.
Do you just think he's happy to play for money alone?
Look, I don't think so, but I also think he's in for the fight. I think he's okay for the fight. So I don't really see a scenario where he leaves at the end of next season. I'm quite confident that he'll be here for the full 5 years.
Sort of goes without saying, but I'd really like to see him have a strong back end of the year, especially now he gets that combination, hopefully, with Latu for the last 8 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's key. I'm really looking forward to this weekend to see them play together really for the first time as a halves pairing, and I think it's something. Despite what's going to happen over the next 2 months of the season, I think it's something really exciting as fans we can kind of hang our hat on and watch until the season ends.
How do you think his style changes now with Latu there? Do you think it's back to the genuine 6 role he played at Penrith, or it's more going to be a bit of a hybrid halfback 6 role?
Yeah, I think it'll be a hybrid, because no matter what, he's a senior playmaker. He doesn't have Nathan Cleary playing inside him like he did at Penrith. He doesn't have Nathan Cleary's kicking game playing inside him. So they're all things that he's going to have to step up and do, despite playing at 6. He's still going to be the senior half. He's still going to be the main kicker. For me, what Latu brings to Jerome's game is he's going to make Jerome play a lot straighter. The fact that Latu plays so direct and so straight really force Luai to play a lot straighter as well. And I think Luai's at his best football when he's playing a lot straighter and not crabbing across the field as much as he has been this season.
On to your mate, Garry, Jahreem Bula. Just want to get one thing straight. The press telling some fibs. They said he's recently joined with Isaac Moses, but I'm sure we talked about this back in pre-season, that he was already there.
Yeah, I'm my recollection of it, and I haven't looked it up or anything, is that it was last year sometime he signed with Moses. So, yeah, I don't really I don't know if they're getting confused with Adam Doueihifit recently signing up with him, or they're just using that connection to try and have a crack at the West Tigers again. I'm not too sure about that.
He was previously with Liam Ayub, who's the son of Sam Ayub, but his option is a two-way option. The Tigers can decide is a mutual option. That's the best way to describe it, Garry. I was just looking for the right words. I found it. Tigers can exercise the option in their favour, but they'd have to pay Bula $900,000 in 2027 if they did. If the Tigers don't take up the option and the player does, being Jahreem Bula, he would be on $800,000 from 2027 onwards. At the moment, the interesting little point, I suppose, why they're bringing it up in terms of Isaac Moses, not just his history with the club, but Moses apparently can only earn a percentage of Bula's deal if a new deal is negotiated. What do you make of it all, Garry?
What I make of that is I don't expect that either option will be probably taken up. I think it will be a renegotiated contract. I think that's probably the safest bet for the West Tigers to go down that path as well, because we know what Isaac Moses is like. He's going to want to get his piece of the cut, and if that means pressuring Jahreem to move to another club, then that's what he's going to do. So I expect that Moses and the West Tigers at some point will sit down and they'll renegotiate another deal, probably similar to the $900,000 deal that the Tigers would have taken up, just so Moses can get his cut of whatever deal he's on moving forward. And it will make it easier for the West Tigers to keep him at the club, in my opinion.
If you were Shane Richardson or Benji, Gary, what sort of ballpark figures and years are you looking for from 2027 onwards for Bula?
I think the 900,000 is probably overs. I'd be quite happy around that $800,000 mark that his option is. I think that's what he's shown. He's probably just below that right now, but given another 2 years, another 18 months or so, I think he'll be around that mark. But at the point we are in our club with the juniors that we've lost and the young players we've lost, we can't afford to lose Jahreem Bula. He's a key part of our spine. I think over the next 2 years, he's only going to get better as a player. So I think we have to go to that 900,000 if we need to keep him. And I think it's really crucial for us to get him signed up long term. I'm happy for them to extend that contract out as far as they want to. He's key to our future.
No, I don't disagree with you. I know I've been a critic in the past, but I think he's played...
Only a slight one.
Yeah, a slight one. But, Gary, you could argue, there's no point being critical if you think someone's average. So I've spurred him on to great things this year.
So you're taking credit for it now?
Oh, you've got to. You've got to take a little bit of credit every now and then. Like, on a serious note, I think his play this year has shown that he could be a $900,000 player. I think he's probably been in our best three players all year. I don't think he is our most important player or best player this year, like some people have said.
I think he's our most dangerous.
What's that?
I think he's our most dangerous.
Okay. You don't think Latu Fino is our most dangerous player? Now?
He's played 3 games.
I'm just saying, you don't think there'd be more... Say you're an opposition coach and there's obviously a tip sheet. Who do you think they're doing the most homework on, Fino or Bula?
Well, Bula's not playing at the moment, but...
No, so you're sneaking out of it that way, are you?
No, Bula's going to be all over every side's tip sheet when they play the West Tigers. If you have a look at the amount of times he's just about busting through the line in a game, and the amount of times he does bust through the line, he's crucial. You're looking at Jerome Luai, and you're looking at Api Coruscant, and you're looking at Jahreem Bula at the moment. Latu is going to start getting more eyes on him, but he's a baby in his career. So Jahreem at times takes that whole right-hand side of the field to himself and organises all the play out on that side. And I think that's when we look the most dangerous on the right-hand side, is when the halves go to the left-hand side. So yeah, he's all over every side's tip sheets, mate.
No, I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying, was he number 1 on the tip sheet? I think he's probably number 3 or number 4.
I think he's the most dangerous player we've got.
Okay. I hope he proves that the last 6 weeks of the year, because I still think there's more in him, and that's not a criticism. I just think I watched Taruva play on the weekend, and no, before people start bagging me, I don't want Taruva to replace Bula at fullback under any circumstances, or Heath Mason, or you, Gary. I don't want you at fullback, but I still think he could be a little bit more involved in the attack and command a little bit more. One thing I think Nick noted, he made a really good point Sunday night, how loud Taruva was directing traffic and barking groups around the field.
That's definitely something that Bula needs to work on. He's a quiet sort of guy, and I don't think he's that vocal in defence when he's directing the defence. But Taruva and Bula are completely different style players. Taruva was playing a lot more through the middle and sniffing around the forwards and looking for an offload. And I think that's really going to benefit him, where Bula plays more out on the edge and plays as that second 5'8" at times and chimes into the back line. I'd like to see him do a little bit more of both. I'd like to see him play through the middle a little bit more. But the way he injects himself into that line, and we're talking about the difference that Latu was going to make for Jerome earlier. the difference that Latu is going to make for Bula is going to be huge as well. Because if he can straighten up Luai, that's going to give Bula so much more space when he actually chimes into those backline sweeping plays. And he's going to be even more dangerous than we've seen earlier in the season. I can't wait till we actually get that spine back playing together. It was really disappointing for me that as soon as Latu came through and we had him up to 80 minutes and ready to play in the halves, Bula gets injured the game before, and Luai gets an infection, and we miss half our spine. So I can't wait till the time we get all those four guys, Appy, Latu, Jerome, and Bula, all on the field together, because I think it's going to be really good to watch.
Hopefully against the Titans at Leichhardt. Although Bula, that might be pushing it for him. We'll see. It's buy, sell, hold time, Garry. My favourite time of the week. Question number 1. Queensland won the Origin series because it simply means more to them, Origin. Buy or sell?
Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. I am buying that every day of the week. For me, I think it's the little brother syndrome. I think Queensland sees New South Wales with the biggest state, the highest population, the big brother, and Queensland just wants to beat up on their big brother anytime they can. And I don't think New South Wales has that same feel about Origin that Queensland does. I think that's why, over the history of Origin, Queensland's always there at the back end of the games to win games that they shouldn't win. They win series they shouldn't win. New South Wales could have picked 3 sides better than Queensland this series, and Queensland won. And a lot of that comes down to it comes down to the goose that was coaching a little bit, but it also comes down to that desire to win that Queensland has that I just don't think New South Wales has at that level.
Yeah, that's a good point. I really don't care at all about Origin, but never ever again, Gary, will I fall into the trap of just backing New South Wales, especially if Laurie Daly's coach, because like you said, if you compared it on club terms, I'd say New South Wales are like a Melbourne Storm coming up against a mid-ranked team. I don't know who, but say St George or the Cowboys or someone around 7th or 8th. But they were just never in the game. Like, I just thought Queensland just wanted it more. New South Wales looked completely disorganised. I suppose bad news for Jerome because he had, let's be honest, he had a mixed bag, but I don't think there was a good New South Wales player out there besides probably Brian Totter and maybe Payne Haas. But good news for Taylan May because I thought the replacements, Max King was unsighted and Stefano was very poor, I thought, in both games.
I still can't get over the fact that May didn't get selected at all during this season. He's obviously had a line put through his name, at least with this current coach, and that they don't want him in the team because I think he would have at least, he wouldn't have performed worse than what Stefano did over the series. I thought he was a little bit better last night, but he still isn't at that level. And I think May, if he had been given a shot, would have shown a lot more. So, yeah, there's a lot of head scratches there. I think, I don't know why, and this isn't a State of Origin pod, but I don't know why Edwards was picked over Tedesco. I think Tedesco's been the form fullback of the competition, and I would have found a place for Appy, at least on the bench. I think they needed a stronger backup hooker.
My last rant on Origin, because we will move on, but Gary, how can you drag, for one, they made the role part-time, which to me is ridiculous because it's a big business, rugby league, and winning this State of Origin series. And what they did, though, is they went out and got a part-time coach and who's hosted a radio show for 10 years. That's what he's done. He's a good bloke, Laurie Daly. You know, he's like you, Gary, but just because he's a good bloke doesn't mean he should be coach of State of Origin. And I just think he's completely out of his depth. If you spent 10 years outside the game, not an assistant coach, not really in the media, he hosts some big breakfast for Tab, which talks about racing and all sorts of stuff. But I just think he deserves to be fired and he never should have been brought back.
Well, he failed before. He was a terrible State of Origin coach to first go, and he's done nothing over his coaching career he hasn't had a coaching career to warrant a second go. So I really didn't understand that appointment. I thought you could find much better options, and it doesn't. State of Origin's really different to club coaching. I don't think you necessarily need someone who is a great coach. You need someone who can motivate, and I don't think Daly can do either.
That's interesting though, because I'm riveting on here, but I was thinking about Craig Bellamy, and I was thinking, Laurie Daly, at least he'll win this series because he's got Bellamy. But Bellamy was 0-3 as an Origin coach, and I just thought New South Wales almost played like a club game. It was like they were trying to shift the ball to the outside backs and look for mismatches, whereas Origin's basically about if you run harder and you want it more and you win the ruck and you earn the right to play football. But it looked like they were like almost like a structured sort of club game. I felt they were playing.
Yeah, I think that's why a motivator is a better coach, because it's not about the X's and O's you do out on the field. It's about desire and want and toughness and getting back up when you're being hit. And when you've got nothing left to give, you give more. And to me, a coach that can motivate is what you want. Billy Slater hasn't had a coaching career before he coached State of Origin. I thought Fittler, he had a decent sort of career at Origin. I think he's a terrible coach, but he's able to motivate players. Phil Gould, while was also a great coach, is probably the best motivator New South Wales has ever had. So if you
He'd
have a
still
look
be
at
their
this,
best coach.
100%, they should put him in now, because the best coaches are the best motivators at that level. Even you have a look at Queensland, Mal Meninga is a terrible, terrible coach, but was able to motivate and put people around him who were better with game planning and stuff. But he's able to motivate players at that level. And I think if you look through the history of Origin, most of the coaches who are successful are good motivators, not necessarily good coaches.
I noticed you left off Michael Maguire there, Gary. He's also a good motivator with the baseball bat, for 3-game series.
Yeah, I think Michael Maguire State of Origin is perfect for, because he is about getting players up, and if you have him at his club long term, I think players get wary of and wear out with that style of coaching. But it's okay for 3 games a year. I think it works quite well. I think for Michael Maguire, State of Origin coaching is probably the ideal role. Okay,
West Tigers buy, sell, hold questions, Gary. 14th would be a pass mark this season. Buy or sell?
At this point, I'm not buying that it's a pass mark, but I'm buying that I'd be quite happy with it right now where we're sitting.
The game's
I'm
called
buying. I'd be happy with it right now.
Okay.
I'm not going to give it a pass though.
Makasini should debut this season.
I'm selling that, and I know I'm probably in the minority of it. If we didn't have Taylan May, who's recently joined the club, I could see the argument for playing him. I don't think you're going to hurt him at all to give him an off-season where he can train full-time with the NRL squad and reassess where he is in February next year. I don't see the reason to rush him. I don't see the reason to put him... He played his first game last weekend against men. He's been playing junior football up until last weekend. Now, I watched the game last weekend, and he was outstanding in that game for a guy who's playing against men for the first time. But to put him into an NRL squad, which he may thrive in, but I don't really see the benefit of it, when I think we should be looking at Taylan May as early as next week to move into that centre spot.
Well, you just answered my next one. I'm take that out. Taylan May should be left centre against Titans. Buy.
I'm buying that every day of the week. It's an interesting one because I thought Adam Doueihifit was excellent last weekend, and I don't know if that's another one of your questions, but what to do with Adam Doueihifit if you put Taylan May into that left centre spot, which I think we should.
He's perfect number 14.
It's a bit of a question.
Although we did raise, Gary, while you're talking about Doueihifit, it was just a small part of me that thought, because I was impressed, one advantage of being in the members is you sit really high up and you can really see whether they're going direct, and you can see overlaps or things developing before they happen, whereas if you're at ground level, it's very hard to.
I thought you could always see things developing before they happen, Eddie.
Yeah, well, I claim that, but not always, Gary. But I thought maybe he's worth a go at 13. And the question mark I would have is not whether he could be disciplined enough to do it. It's more whether he could make the tackles and do the tough stuff. Is that fair?
My concern would be his defence and his ability to make the number of tackles, but also it hasn't happened this much this year, but in the past he has been known to get bumped off of a tackle, and I'd be worried about that. But I think it's probably worth a try. His body size, his body shape, he looks like he could be the ideal 13. He looks like he can be a guy who is a threat to run the ball, who can damage when running the ball, that can also ball play a little bit. So he has a lot of attributes that I think would fit that 13. I just worry about his defence.
Is it worth a go then before the end of the season? Not saying this week, but I'd like to see it at least once before the end of the year.
Yeah, I think it's worth a crack just to see how it goes. Again, I wouldn't be starting him there, but having playing in the 14 and coming off the bench and spending some time in that role, especially when the 14 we have at the moment is Tristan Hope. And no, not to bag the guy. I think that's a spot we could definitely try Adam Doueihifit in to see how he goes in that number 13 role.
Last buy, sell, hell. It's a bit of a general one. Other struggling clubs this season, Gary, go under the radar in the media. Buy or sell?
Yeah, I'm going to buy that, but I understand why they do. Other struggling clubs this year off the back of 3 wooden spoons. And until we get away from being in what you would call a race for the wooden spoon, then we are going to have that extra scrutiny on us. If we were sitting a little bit higher on the table, then I don't think we'd be getting the media attention that we currently are, and would be going under the radar a little bit more than we currently are.
And I'm not even I'm not relating it to the Titans because no one cares about the Titans because no one clicks on it. I don't think they have any fans in Sydney or wherever mainstream. But I'm talking about South.
Do they have any fans at all?
I'm talking about South. I think they have some fans, but how many Gold Coasts have there been? Chargers, Seagulls, Titans. It hasn't worked. No wonder Des Hasler's retiring. But
retiring or getting sacked?
Yeah, getting sacked, so he's retiring. But Souths, it's all relative to me. Souths have a top 4 squad. I know they've been ravaged by injuries, but their squad is so much better than ours, or their top 17, both. And they're on the same amount of wins and they're second last. And I just really haven't been much criticism at all this year about Souths.
No, there hasn't been any rumblings about Wayne Bennett. It's been definitely quiet there at the Rabbitohs. I really haven't heard anything at all. So, if I didn't check the ladder, I wouldn't know where they're running. So
second last.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. So it's interesting, but again, they're not on the back of 3 wooden spoons and in the race to win a 4th one. I think the context of where we're coming from and the optimism that came around with Luai coming over and the expectations that came with that and the expectations that came when we'd won 5 from whatever it was at the start of the season, I think that has added a lot to it. The way players left our club. Souths haven't had their 2 most prized juniors leave the club mid-season. All these things contribute to why we're in the news a lot more than the other clubs, and some of it's self-inflicted. So I don't think we can really sit there and complain that we're getting the bad publicity in South Zone.
Play the Warriors Sunday, Gary. Warriors have a 22 head-to-head overall record. We've won 6 from 15 at Mount Smart, which I don't think is a bad record. 2 o'clock kickoff, which is a 4 o'clock kickoff in New Zealand. We obviously played them earlier this year and really went toe-to-toe with them, Gary. 24-26.
Should have won.
Interesting thing, even though the ladder goes to show how close, and it's usually a cliche, it's a close competition. It's usually not a close competition, Gary. But the Warriors are 4th, and they've scored the same amount of points as us this season, 320. So, I just found that really interesting. And their differential is plus 11. So they're sitting 4th with a plus 11 for and against, which doesn't mean they've necessarily been lucky, but they've won a lot of close games, and we've lost a lot of close games. So even though this is 4th against, 14th, I don't think there's a whole lot between the 2 clubs.
And I think there's even less when you have a look at the players they have out this weekend. Losing Metcalf is massive for them. I thought he's been fantastic this year, and that's a massive out for them. So I think that brings the game a lot closer. And as you said, that game at Campbelltown Stadium earlier in the year, that's a game we should have won. And again, it was a close game. One of the close games that they've won and one of the close games that we've lost. And I really think this is a game we should go over there, despite being over in New Zealand, despite Luai coming off the back of playing Origin and having to travel in New Zealand. This is a game that I expect us to win this week. And if we play the type of football we played, especially in the first half last weekend, I can't see us losing it.
Whoa, that's
If we
too
did you hear
confident, Harry. That's too
did you
confident.
hear the first part of that sentence, Eddie? If we play the style of football we played last weekend.
You think that'll be good enough to beat the Warriors?
The first half, yes. I thought we were really strong the first half. The big thing is we've got to get over.
Playing a reserve grade pack. Like they're a
Yeah, we've
strong
got to get
pack.
over their forward pack.
That's what worries me in this game.
Yeah, look, I still think we're lacking that impact forward who can make a real difference to us, a starting impactful prop. But I do think this is a game that we can go over there and win. The Warriors have some key outs.
They do have Metcalf out. I'll get to that in a minute. But I'll bring up now because I took a couple of the points off the coach, I call him, Eddie and Garry. We're going to have him on as a special guest on the West Tigers podcast Monday night. I'm going to record, but it'll be released Wednesday. It's going to be I'd call it like a coaching masterclass. He's obviously growing. He's got a lot of fans. He obviously on the West Life podcast this year. And a couple of things he said about this game is he thinks that, one, the 4:00 kickoff in New Zealand may benefit us because it's not going to be a night game, even though it is twilight. The ground might be a little bit drier. So he said they're really used to a dewy surface, which plays into their forwards and stuff like that. And he also mentioned the fact that he thought that Tristan Hope might start this game. And that's the only reason he's in the number 14 jersey. And given Appy's coming off an 11-day concussion, that they might just start with Tristan Hope and hope, pardon the pun, that he can hold the middle for the first 20 minutes. I thought that was an interesting point. I'm not saying I would do that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's their tactic.
There's a history of it happening, though, Eddie. Penrith used to start Appy off the bench for a lot in his last couple of seasons at the Panthers. So, and he did very well in that role. He would come on after about 20 minutes and play out the rest of the game. And I thought that really suited him at that point. I thought they had a better hooker than Tristan Hope to start it. So I do worry about that a little bit. And as I said on Sunday night, and as I said to you in a conversation you and I had, I thought the Roosters at times targeted Hope in defence, and whether he can contain
where do you like the point Adele was making? Where do you get him on if he's not starting? Like he's not really an impact player.
No, he's not. And what he did do last weekend is he provided nice, crisp service. He's not really a threat running the ball, so I don't really. If you're putting him on, in my eyes, you're only putting him on to give Appy a rest. He's just going out there and doing a role to give Appy a break. Now, whether you do that in the first 20 minutes or you do that at 10, 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes during the game at some other point, that's what his role is. It's to give Appy a break. And I don't mind where they give him a break, but that's the only reason you're putting him out on the field. You're not putting him out there to break a game apart. You're not putting him out there. I don't really see him as a strength in defence. I think he gets targeted by bigger forwards, and the Warriors always have a really big pack that I think he will struggle against defensively. So the only reason I see is to give Appy a rest.
Well, Adele will be on, like I said. That'll be released Wednesday. Rob, Bashara, and Adele, they do a great job on the Sunday night West Tigers Life podcast. So looking forward to having those boys on for the midweek episode next week. But Gary, Tanner Boyd, this is a guy who was thrown out of the Gold Coast. I thought he disappeared from rugby league. He's going to be starting for the Warriors this week. That gives me a bit of encouragement. I think he's someone we can target both defensively, and I think he's a bit of a suspect halfback.
Yeah, as I said, Metcalf is a massive out for them. I don't think Boyd can really provide the direction around the park that Metcalf has in the past, so I don't expect to see them as organised or as strong structurally as they have been the rest of the season. So, and I think he is definitely a target for our second rollers on the edge. I think if we can isolate him, I think we're a chance of making some hay by sending some traffic his way.
Don't know if I can go as far as predicting we're going to win, Gary, but I do like the Eddie's analytics is back. I do like the 9.5 start, West Tigers. I think we will cover that.
This is a game I expect us to win. I think the players came out last weekend, and after the game, they said, we went out there and we did this for Benji Marshall. If that's the case, Benji's still under pressure. You need to go out there. You need to do it again this week. You need to go out there and do it again next week. Let's start showing that if Benji Marshall is the coach that you want to have, that you can go out there and you can start winning football games, because there's no reason why this isn't a game that we can win this weekend. If we can hold them in the middle, hold their big middle forwards, then that goes a long way to winning this game. And I think there's a lot of pressure on our starting props, Pole and Terrell, to get us off to a good start, because we're traditionally slow starters. But if we can get off to a good start and hold them in the middle, I think this is a game we can definitely win.
Made me laugh on the weekend, Gary. Benji Marshall, I thought he was going to go on the field at one point. He was just stalking the sideline the whole game. It's great. It's great. Mate. It's great vision, one, for the TV, because you're looking for the Ricky Stewart moment where he throws the chair, but you could see how invested and how much he needed that win and how much he was willing the boys on. Even at the end, he was telling them to kick it the other way, and they didn't listen.
I think that's why Adam Doueihifit kept on sliding across the left-hand side, because he was worried Benji was going to run out there and tackle him. So,
Benji, it's funny that, you know what I saw before you go on? I saw Queensland, there was a clip from them training during the week before they smashed New South Wales, and Billy Slater was running 5'8" or something. So, it's good enough for Billy, good enough for Benji.
Yeah, I've never really seen a coach as engaged in the game as he was. But we see coaches sitting on the bench all the time. You see Ricky Stewart kind of prowling up and down the sideline a bit, but he'll go and sit down at some point.
It was like a soccer coach. It was like a European soccer coach.
He didn't sit down at all.
You have to march a little technical area that he's not allowed to go out of. Paint some spray paint on.
In the NFL, they actually have assistant coaches whose role is to stop the coach getting in the way, to actually move the coach out of the way. And I was sitting there watching the game, and as Benji got close to the sideline, I was looking for someone to kind of pull him back a little bit.
Some cynics, Gary, would say we've got coaches that's all they do.
Well, they didn't do a very good job of it, because he got closer and closer to that sideline all game. And I don't know if you saw it, Eddie. When we took one of the penalty conversions, Latu came right over the sideline, and they're standing a metre apart. He's getting instructions from his coach. I've never really seen that in the NRL before. Like, we've seen Gould on the side. We saw Gould get sent off from the sideline for having a go at Harrigan once, and like Ricky Stewart's about the only other one I can remember consistently doing it. But Benji's always been a coach who comes down and spends time on the sideline. So I think he gets a better feel of the game when he's a bit closer to the action.
Okay. This game's it'll determine where the rest of the season goes for me, Gary. Like, if we win it, it's all roads lead to Leichhardt. We can get 3 in a row. And I think we will beat the Titans easily if we win this game, because the flow.
What if they sack Hasler, though? Like, yeah, that bounce back from a team?
Yeah. I think the Gold Coast just expect anything all the time. Like, they could turn up and beat us by 20 because they've got talent. But my point more is, if we win this game, there'll be a huge crowd at Leichhardt because we go for 3 in a row. We haven't done that since 2018. But if we lose this game, it's back to that pressure race, because we're not totally out of that wooden spoon race. I know everyone wants to forget about it after one win, but we can't all of a sudden have a loss to the Warriors and then be under pressure against the Gold Coast and potentially lose to them. So I think this week will determine whether, I'm not going to say we can make a run for the 8. That's gone. That's 40 to 1, Gary, if you want to get that. That's literally the price for us to make the 8. But if we win this week, we could potentially say, start looking up in the ladder, not down.
Yeah, I always look up. I'm not like you, Eddie. I don't look down. Are you saying if we win this weekend, we're out of the spoon race? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying it'd just about be official. The only reason I wouldn't say it's official is because we play Gold Coast twice, which means they can beat you twice. So then, let's be honest, they're not going to win 8 games, the Gold Coast, but they will win 6 or 7. So let's just win this week and then not have to worry about it.
So we win this week, I get positive Eddie, is it? Is
Well,
that what's
you
going to
did
happen?
say I let you have your victory lap last week. That's why I didn't come on Sunday. I'd also had about 1,000 vodka Red Bulls, but I let you have your victory lap because you said we'd cause an upset. You said we might even win 2 of the last other 4.
Two of
And
the next 4, yeah.
this is the
This
fourth
is the
one.
fourth one.
This is the fourth one, so we'll see. But it's time for Yiotis quiz. Multiple choice. What was our ladder position at the end of the round following our last win over the Warriors, which was in, I got no idea when we beat them last. Was it first? Was it 8th? Was it 9th? Or was it 16th?
9th.
The answer is first. So round 2, 2019. I do remember this game now. I'm looking at it. That was when we beat them and Robbie Farah had an absolute blinder, and it was in round 2, so that's why we were first. True or false? Our first win as a joint venture was against the Warriors, 17-16, with both teams scoring the same amount of tries.
True.
It's a typical Yachty one. It's false, but
Yeah,
it's partly true.
It'll be one part wrong.
Yeah, it's partly true. So we did beat them 17-16, but we scored 3 tries with 2 from 6 goals. They scored 4 tries, 0 from 4 goals. So goal kicking was a shocker that night at Leica. Nearest to the pin, well, you got no one you're up against, Gary, so you're going to win this one. Based on the previous podcast, it was said that Sunday's win was our 250th.
Loss.
Is he insinuating that we were...
Yeah, win.
I think he's insinuating that we were wrong. Maybe he's, based on the previous podcast, but maybe not. How many losses have we had as a club?
324.
372. 38%.
I still get the point for that, right?
Yeah, well, you were near us. No opposition tonight. Big shout out to the boys.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Hope they're sleeping well.
Well, Steve, I thought Steve had, got more time for podcasts now, but apparently he was at training today. Like, is he was in the sheds 6 weeks ago. Is he some sort of coach that's being employed and he hasn't told us or something? Or is he just a pest?
It wouldn't surprise me. Like, we've asked Benji not to employ, like, mates anymore, and he gets Steve in as an assistant coach.
Question 4. Name the West Tigers players who appeared on the bench for us during the 2011 final series. Hint, there are 5 of them.
When was it?
2011. So that year we got knocked out by the Warriors.
Yeah.
Think of who was on the bench in that game, pretty much.
So, and Heinington.
Nope. Think about it. A young prop just debuting who went on to start.
Yeah, Ben Murdoch-Masila, did he?
No, that was 2010, the year before. I know.
That's what I thought. I thought it was 2010.
He debuted against the Roosters in that 10 semi. But this one is... Should I give you any more clues? He's a prop. He went on to play Origin for us, and then he knifed us.
Was he?
Yeah, he was on the bench.
Okay. He would have been a terrible bench prop.
Matt Grote was on the bench.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Mark Flanagan. He was an Englishman, wasn't he?
He was an Englishman.
Mitch Brown and Matty Utai. Last one.
So 2 wingers.
Who was the coach?
Jesus.
Who am I? I was born in Sydney in 1989. Debuted for Canterbury. With Canterbury in an NRL season, they finished as minor premiers, but only made 1 appearance. Joined West Tigers in a new coach's first season, playing 0 games. Debuted in my second season. Give you a hint, that was 2014. So he debuted under Mick Potter. With featuring in 13 games, scored 1 try, and that was the coach's last year. Headed north to Brisbane for 1 season, followed by 1 season in the Hunter. I signed and played with the Warriors for 3 years. I joined the Super League, and I retired at the end of 2024. I'll give you one more clue that's not on there. He was almost part of a little sort of Bash Brothers duo with Marty Tapau. He was on the bench.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I'm not going to get this one. I've got no idea.
James Gavett.
Yes, okay. I do remember him now.
James Gavett, I remember him.
That man, by myself, and I don't think I got anything right in that quiz.
Well, you haven't lost. That's the good news.
Yeah, well, I got closest to the pin.
Yeah. So you won 1-0. All right, Gary. Well, I won't be going to New Zealand this week. I've officially retired from going to any further Roosters games. I told my Roosters mates, I said, I'm going out on a winning note. I'm never, ever going, because that was one of the greatest days of my life, I'm going to say, beating them out there. I'm not going to exaggerate or anything. It was one of the great days being out there at whatever they call it now. So despite that, I won't be going to New Zealand. I'll be watching it at a pub somewhere.
Yeah, we'll be watching it at West Ashfield. The Ambush is having an event there. So if you're free on Sunday afternoon and you're looking for somewhere to watch the game, I think Steve and I will be up on stage at some point doing a little bit of a mini pod and discussing previewing the game. So come along, say hi. They got half price pizzas there, so come along, have lunch and sit and watch the game with us. I'm looking forward to it. As I said earlier, I think it's a game that we should win.
2:00 game, Gary. So what time will you be there, West Ashfield?
Yeah, so I think around 12:30 we're kicking off there. Maybe a little bit after that, but get there around 12:30. Grab a bite to eat and enjoy the game.
All right, that's it for tonight, mate. Thank you. It's been a rare two-man podcast.
Yeah, I've missed them, Eddie. So I'm not used to them. I think I was a little bit rusty on a two-man pod. It's been a while since we've done one.
I was going to say it's like the Johns brothers. I'm like the Matty Johns, the guy who's good in the media, and you're the Andrew Johns because you still play footy and you think you're a good halfback in Oztag or whatever you play.
Yeah, mate, I was good tonight, I tell you.
Team
but we did lose, though.
Yeah.
We did lose.
All right. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Eddie.